Miss De Costa, and I'm basically going to be going over my lesson plan to teach the eighth graders about the Atlantic slave trade and the African diaspora. So basically, my goals are going to be for the students to be able to associate the activities to cultural reality today. I want them to be able to gain insight on the political, geographical, and cultural aspects of Africa. And I also will be teaching them about the history and the cultural influences. So first, I'm going to start by asking them what they know about the slave trade. So my assistant here is going to act as a student. So I would ask, what do you know about the slave trade?
Well, I wrote down a few things that I did know about the African slave trade. And one thing was that there was at least 12.5 million slaves that had been shipped from Africa. And that most of them, and 90% of them, were imported into the Caribbean and South America.
Okay, good. So basically, off of what the students tell me, I'm just going to sum up what it is. I don't want to extend the language too far because they're only eighth graders. So basically, I'll just tell them that it was a time period from about 1526 to 1827 where about 10 to 15 million Africans were kidnapped and sold into slavery. They usually were exchanged for goods and a source of free labor. Um, these people were literally taken from their homes. Sometimes when their parents weren't home, it happened in so many different ways. They were traded for goods such as beads, horses, guns, you name it. Um, what's so crazy about this situation is that they were packed onto ships, literally crowded with millions of people to come into the New World, which is America. And the conditions were literally horrific. So I would show the class, like a slideshow of images. I would also have them watch, videos so they can really get the feel of what they had to go through. And then I'm going to incorporate an activity in the class, basically where um, they can volunteer. They don't have to participate in the activity. And I'm going to have them go into a small section of the class, and they're going to be crowded for about 2 minutes. And then post, the videos and the experience and the activity. I'm going to have them write a journal entry just explaining how they felt and, how they think that, the slaves felt back then. So then next, I feel like it's very important with eighth graders that you let them see it visually. So I'm going to incorporate a lot of different maps, showing the different trade routes and voyages. I'm also going to have them do an activity with a timeline. So basically, I'll have them split up into different groups, and each group will get a different time period. They'll write their own events, important dates, and then once the activity's done, we'll bring all the timelines together. We'll go over it, see if we need to add any information, if there's any information that's not correct. And then, as far as the maps as well, I think it's important to relay the information to them. That this goes into the African diaspora, where the people were transported to the Caribbean, Brazil, Great Britain, Spain, literally every area in the world from Europe to Middle East to Asia. So next, basically, I would say how the slave trade ended, and that's in 1807 when Congress abolished the African slave trade, and people started, disembarking from their places. So then I'm going to go into the African diaspora, and I would ask the students, what do they know about the African diaspora? So, my student, what do you know about the African diaspora?
Honestly, that was the first time I've ever even heard the term, so I don't know anything, and I feel like a lot of people don't because it's not talked about much.
And I definitely agree with that. Prior to even taking this class, I had no idea what it was. So I did my own research on it. And basically, to simplify the definition, it's communities throughout the world that have basically resulted by descent from the movement from Africa, of the people. So that's why, Africa's always coined with being the origin of human, origin, right? Origin of human, what? Trace, I shall say. So I'll definitely let them see the maps to see, where people ended up, because a lot of people just think that, they were dispersed in small areas, but they're literally dispersed everywhere around the world. So then For another activity I would do, I made up a Jeopardy game. And basically, the Jeopardy game is going to help them remember the different terms and definitions associated with the trade, the African slave trade and the diaspora. So I would involve terms such as enslavement, mulatto, multicultural, and the New World. And basically, this will have them, remember the information in a fun way. Next, I think I would do um, basically like a game that sparks cultural awareness. I feel like in the classroom, that's not something that's focused on a lot, and I feel like a lot of people are not culturally aware. So I would have them organize themselves into groups based on what they think is ethnic similarities within the group. And then after they do that, we'll actually, find background on each of the students and find out if they were even right, if they're even culturally aware. And off of that, they could also go home and try to actually find out more information into their background. Because a lot of people do not realize that they are of African descent. Africans come from Afro American, Afro South American, Afro Caribbean, and the list goes on. So the next, I feel like they should watch the movie Help. The Help. It's basically portrays life in America for slaves. So I feel like it goes off of the slave trade and it shows evolution towards segregation and then now today where slavery is not allowed. So I feel like that, is important if you want to display the cultural relativism of what they're learning to today. So another section that I think would be very important would be to talk about the traditions from Africa that are relative today in America. So I know that a lot of Africans practice folkways, to relay messages to each other within their celebrations or festivals that they had. So what I would want to do also too is incorporate dance because the music was very important in Africa, and Africa actually has some of the best musicians in the world. So I would want them to separate into groups, however they wanted to do it, and basically they would either have to write a contemporary rap, something along those lines. It could be about anything, or they could do a dance, but they have to incorporate some African culture into it, which a lot of people don't realize. A lot of our dances do have African culture and different moves. So based on that, and to get them motivated and to really want to do the activity, the winner, like the most creative dance or rap, will be able to go see, African drumming. So that'll definitely motivate them and give them a reward to want to do that. Also, I would incorporate the food, just show them about how different, what we refer to as soul food, was brought from Africa and is still present all over the world today. And while they eat the soul food, it can be sweet potato pie, baked macaroni, collard greens, and then they can listen to different music that Africans listen to. I feel like the African drum show would be very influential as well because throughout my reading, I learned that drums were very important to Africans also during slave times because they were used as forms of communications. And that's why drums were banned because the owners, realized that the slaves were communicating through the drums. So I feel like that would be an important piece to add on to that. Also,